Kelsey Mitchell and what she did today, I mean, it was something else.
The WNBA has just been slammed with a brutal reality check that nobody wanted to face, but everyone deep down feared was coming. And at the center of this storm stands Caitlin Clark, the league's lone megastar and the lifeline of an entire sports growth narrative. 4 months. The hype machine surrounding Clark's impact on women's basketball seemed unstoppable. With every Indiana Fever game turning into a must-watch spectacle and arenas across the country packed to capacity in a way the WNBA had never experienced before. But all of that momentum came crashing down the moment Clark went down with a devastating groin injury on July 15th. An injury that has now officially ended her 2025 season. The announcement didn't just change Indiana's fate. It sent shockwaves across the entire league, unraveling what many are now calling a manufactured era of growth that was entirely dependent on one player's brilliance. Caitlin Clark herself delivered the heartbreaking news to her fans, posting on her own platform to make it clear there would be no miraculous comeback, no last-minute return to save the Fever's playoff run, or to salvage the league's collapsing ratings. "I hope to share a better update, but I will not be returning to play this season," Clark wrote, her words cutting through weeks of speculation and false hope. She went on to describe the countless hours she spent in the gym every day with one singular goal: to get back on the court and lead her team, but even all that effort wasn't enough. The disappointment in her tone was palpable as she thanked the fans for sticking by her through so much uncertainty, admitting how frustrating the process had been, yet expressing gratitude for the way supporters showed up night after night, filling arenas just to see her and the Fever compete. It was a statement filled with heartbreak but also resolve. A window into the emotional toll this injury has taken, not just on Clark, but on millions of fans who had pinned their hopes on her return. The numbers reveal just how catastrophic this loss truly is. When Clark was healthy and dominating on the floor, Indiana's games averaged an astonishing 1.26 million viewers, numbers that most professional leagues could only dream of. The Fever became the WNBA's golden ticket, the one franchise whose games mattered on a national stage, whose highlights trended on social media, and whose matchups were treated like marquee events. But the moment Clark went down, those ratings didn't just dip, they collapsed. Broadcast numbers fell to around 400,000 per game, representing a staggering 70% drop. And those figures were during a period when fans still clung to the hope that she might return before the postseason. Now that Clark herself has confirmed she is done for the year, that cliff has turned into an abyss, and there's no safety net left to catch the league's collapsing relevance. This isn't just a dip in interest. It's a complete implosion of the WNBA's fragile ecosystem, exposing just how dependent everything had become on one player. Ticket sales are evaporating across the country. Games that once sold out weeks in advance are now struggling to move even a fraction of their seats. Resale prices for tickets, which once soared past $80 or $90 for a chance to see Clark in action, have cratered. In Washington, for instance, when the Mystics moved a game to a larger venue in Baltimore to accommodate the Clark-fueled demand, prices plummeted from $41 to just $1 when news broke that she wouldn't be playing. That's not just a decline. That's humiliation on a national stage. It's proof that much of the WNBA's attendance spike was purely driven by Clark's presence and not by a broader love for the league itself. And it isn't just the fans who are feeling the shockwaves. Corporate sponsors who signed multi-million-dollar deals based on Clark's projected influence are suddenly rethinking their investments. TV networks like ESPN and ABC, which built entire playoff schedules around her, now face the nightmare scenario of a postseason without the very player they were counting on to draw record-breaking numbers. The WNBA Finals, which were supposed to be a celebration of growth and momentum, now risk looking like glorified scrimmages with empty arenas and lifeless broadcasts. The financial ramifications are staggering beyond belief. Sports economist Ryan Brewer projected that Caitlin Clark's economic impact for the WNBA in 2025 could reach a mind-blowing $1 billion when factoring in ticket sales, TV contracts, merchandising, tourism, and the overall cultural wave she brought with her. This wasn't just Fever revenue. This was the entire ecosystem of women's basketball riding on one athlete's shoulders. Clark's arrival had elevated the WNBA into mainstream sports conversations, with fans traveling across states just to watch her play, her jersey sales breaking records faster than Nike could manufacture them. And NBA-sized arenas packed to capacity every single night she took the court. Without her, that entire house of cards collapses. The league goes from selling out 18,000-seat venues to struggling to half-fill small 7,000-seat arenas. The contrast is as stark as it is devastating. Consider this. In Chicago, a team based in one of the biggest sports markets in the country, a highly promoted Sky game without Clark barely drew 6,000 fans numbers. It's more fitting for a sleepy high school gym than a professional sports league. The Fever themselves have been gutted by injuries all season, but none more devastating than losing Clark. What was supposed to be a championship caliber team built around her playmaking and leadership is now reduced to a shell of its former self, a skeleton crew clawing just to survive the first round of the playoffs. Without Clark, the Fever are not contenders. They're just another middle-of-the-pack team with no national draw, and that is a nightmare scenario for the league. The psychological impact on fans is equally catastrophic. Many had built their travel plans, bought expensive tickets months in advance, and tuned in religiously on TV just to see Clark compete. Now, those same fans are echoing the devastating sentiment across social media. If she's out, I'm out. That single phrase perfectly captures the fragility of the WNBA's so-called growth era. This wasn't about a deep love for the league or its other stars. It was about Caitlin Clark. And now that she's gone, millions of casual fans are disappearing with her. The league is unraveling, and the cracks are no longer hidden. They're gaping wide open for the world to see, exposing a WNBA that built its entire foundation on one star while failing to protect her at every critical moment. Caitlin Clark's season-ending announcement didn't just deliver a blow to Indiana Fever fans or to her teammates who fought alongside her all year. It detonated like a bomb that ripped through the entire league's fragile ecosystem, exposing every lie, every false narrative, and every hollow promise made by executives who gambled everything on Clark's meteoric rise without ever creating a sustainable plan to support her or the league's long-term future. In the months leading up to her injury, Clark endured relentless physical punishment unlike anything we've seen in modern women's basketball. She was targeted night after night by jealous opponents who threw elbows, body checks, and flagrant fouls in a thinly veiled attempt to intimidate or even injure her. 17% of all flagrant fouls committed in the WNBA this season were against Caitlin Clark. Staggering statistic that makes it clear this wasn't just hard-nosed defense or competitive play. This was a league-wide campaign to knock its brightest star off the pedestal. And under Commissioner Kathy Engelbert's watch, the referees turned a blind eye. Time after time, Clark was left unprotected, forced to play through dangerous hits, while officials either swallowed their whistles or called meaningless fouls that did nothing to stop the violence. The result was inevitable. Clark's body gave out under the weight of constant abuse. And now she's sidelined for the rest of the year, while the very players who tried to take her down are left playing in half-empty arenas, confused and bitter, as they realize that without her, the spotlight doesn't follow them. It's poetic justice in a way, but it's also a tragedy for fans and for the sport itself. Because the WNBA allowed this to happen. By prioritizing short-term ticket sales over player safety, by selling out Clark's health for the sake of a few extra broadcasts, they destroyed the golden goose before it even had time to fully mature. This wasn't just mismanagement, It was betrayal. Reports have begun to surface suggesting that the Fever front office, from the general manager to the team president to the coaching staff, knew weeks ago that Clark's injury was far more severe than they were publicly admitting. Instead of leveling with the fans, they strung everyone along with vague updates, carefully chosen language, and the constant illusion that Clark might be back soon. There were whispers about her potentially returning against the Minnesota Lynx. Rumors about her ramping up activity. Carefully staged photos of her at practice in street clothes, all designed to keep fans buying tickets, keep TV networks locked in, and keep sponsors from panicking. It was smoke and mirrors, a con job executed at the highest levels. And now that the truth is out, the betrayal stings even more. When Clark finally dropped the bombshell herself, announcing in her own words that she was done for the season. It exposed the Fever organization and the league office for what they really are. Desperate marketers who care more about protecting their bottom line than the well-being of their players or the trust of their fans. That desperation has now come full circle, and it's eating them alive. Corporate sponsors are quietly pulling back, renegotiating deals, and in some cases, outright walking away. TV networks are scrambling to figure out how to salvage playoff broadcasts that no longer feature the one player casual fans actually tuned in to see. ESPN and ABC, who saw their ratings plummet by 55% during Clark's initial absence, now face an entire postseason with even fewer viewers. This isn't just a ratings dip, it's a ratings black hole. Even the broadcasters themselves are admitting defeat. Popular sports personalities like Jason Whitlock and Colin Cowherd have publicly stated they won't be covering the WNBA anymore now that Clark is out, openly admitting that she was the only reason they gave the league airtime in the first place. This level of transparency is devastating because it lays bare a painful truth. Caitlin Clark wasn't just the league's biggest star. She was the product. Without her, there's nothing left to sell. The ripple effects are everywhere. Fans who once traveled across the country to see Clark play are canceling trips, demanding refunds, and venting their frustration online. Entire cities that had banked on Clark's appearances to drive local tourism and economic activity are suddenly staring at financial shortfalls. Consider the Fever's road games earlier this year, whenever Clark came to town. Restaurants, hotels, and local businesses saw massive surges in revenue as thousands of fans flocked in for the game. Now, those same businesses are empty, and the economic ripple effect is catastrophic. Even resale ticket markets are in free fall. When news of Clark's injury first broke, secondary market prices for games without her nosedived almost overnight. In Chicago, tickets that had been going for $86 dropped to $25 within 48 hours. In Washington, prices fell to an almost unbelievable $1, literally the cost of a cup of coffee to get into a professional basketball game. That's not a market correction. That's a collapse of demand, so complete, it should terrify every executive in the WNBA. This isn't just about numbers, it's about perception. When the public sees tickets being practically given away, they don't just question the value of the product, they start questioning whether it's even worth paying attention to it all. And here's the cruel irony. All of this could have been prevented. The league had taken a stand early on. If referees had been instructed to protect Clark from the relentless targeting, coaches and front offices had prioritized her long-term health instead of rushing her back onto the court to save a few ticket sales, none of this would be happening. Instead, they played a dangerous game, and now the bill has come due. Clark's absence isn't just hurting Indiana or the WNBA's bottom line. It's exposing a hard truth that Engelbert and the league office desperately tried to hide. Without Clark, the WNBA is not a thriving professional sports league. It's a niche product with a small, loyal fan base, struggling to stay relevant in a crowded sports marketplace. And the worst part? Clark knows it. By dropping her announcement when she did with one perfectly timed statement that shattered The league's illusion of stability, she seized control of the narrative. In that moment, she didn't just end her season. She exposed the league's weakness for everyone to see. The WNBA is now standing on the edge of a cliff, staring into a void of its own making, and the timing couldn't be more disastrous. Caitlin Clark's official announcement that she will not return for the rest of the 2025 season landed like a thunderclap at the very moment the league needed her most. The start of the playoff push, when storylines are supposed to peak, rivalries are supposed to ignite, and casual fans are supposed to tune in to witness history. Instead, what they're about to see is a hollow postseason stripped of its heartbeat, a series of games that feel more like practice scrimmages than marquee events. The Fever, who with Clark were championship contenders, now look like a shell of themselves. Without their leader, their offensive engine, and their marketing powerhouse, they're reduced to a team clawing just to survive the first round. There is no realistic path to a title run without Clark, and everyone knows it. The fans, the players, and even the league executives desperately trying to spin this collapse into something palatable. But the fans aren't buying it. Social media is flooded with variations of the same message. If she's out, I'm out.